All right, so get ready for a deep dive into Real Madrid this week. It's been a whirlwind. I mean, a total roller coaster. You sent over tons of YouTube videos, commentators, journalists, you name it. And everyone is talking about the same stuff, these emotional highs and lows, controversial refereeing decisions in La Liga, a stunning Champions League victory. And fans are even questioning Real Madrid's future in the league, it seems like. Well, we've got a lot to cover.
It's really the contrast that stands out to me. Like, you've got that frustrating draw against Osasuna, 1-1. And just a match full of disputed calls, everyone's fired up. But then on the other hand, you have that huge win in the Champions League against Manchester City. And it's like, that's got everyone buzzing. It's a real snapshot of where Real are right now, dealing with all this controversy and turmoil, but they're still achieving these incredible results on the biggest stage.
Yeah, I know, it's confusing. So where do we even begin?
Let's start with that Osasuna match. It sounded like just a refereeing nightmare for the videos you sent. Multiple penalty shouts, ignored a red card for dissent.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack there. What are the sources saying about the uncalled penalty on Vinicius Junior?
Most people agree that it was a clear penalty. Moncayola's challenge on Vinicius.
Right.
Analysts break down the replay, frame by frame. They point out how reckless the challenge was and how it completely stops Vinicius from getting to the goal, and you know that missed call potentially cost Real Madrid a goal. Huge impact on the result of the match.
And what about those handball calls? It seems like everyone's so frustrated with how that rule is being interpreted.
Right, and the one involving Katina early in the match, that's really controversial. Some people say it was a natural hand position, like a hand of support, and shouldn't have been called. Others insist it was deliberate, pointing to the way Katina moved towards the ball. And what's really annoying the fans is the inconsistency, how these situations are being officiated. It's like there's no clear standard.
Yeah, it does make you wonder if everyone's playing by the same rules. Then there's the penalty that was given to Osasuna, Camavinga's challenge.
Right? Some are saying Camavinga's contact was incidental, just a little stomp as he ran past. And it shouldn't have been a penalty. Others say it was clumsy and dangerous, and he deserved to be penalized.
Well, it sounds like a very, very borderline call. And then to top it all off, Bellingham gets a red card for dissent.
Yeah, a lot of people felt that was harsh, especially since no one could really hear what he said to the ref, like his exact words. Some people think it was just a reaction to how he felt the game was being called, like the ref had it out for Real Madrid.
You know, you mentioned bias, and that brings us to the Negreira case. Can you give us a quick explanation in case someone listening isn't familiar with this?
Sure. So it involves Barcelona. Allegedly, they made payments to the former vice president of the refereeing committee, and these payments went on for years, and it's led to some serious accusations, match-fixing corruption. It's bad news for Lolita's reputation. But it's really important to remember, these are just accusations. Nothing has been proven in court.
Right, and we're not taking any sides here, just presenting the information. But it's a really messy situation.
It really is, and this case has just blown up this debate about refereeing bias in La Liga. I mean, some commentators like Fernando Sanz, he doesn't hold back. In one video you sent, he calls La Liga irredeemably corrupt and says Real Madrid should just leave.
Wow, he really went there. So how does this tie back to the Osasuna match?
Well, it's created a lot of distrust, even if there's no evidence of anything actually wrong happening in that specific match. The Negreira case makes people think that Real Madrid is being targeted, like there's this pre-existing bias against them. So every decision, every call is viewed with suspicion. It's about more than just this one result. It's a sense of injustice that's been building for a while.
Okay, so we have this super contentious La Liga match. Fans are calling for reforms. Some are even saying Real should leave the league. But then, in the middle of all of this chaos, they beat Manchester City. A huge Champions League victory.
It really is a crazy contrast.
So let's talk about that City match. Real Madrid wins 2-1 in the first leg of the Champions League semifinal. The commentators you sent over, they're going wild. What are the sources saying about the key moments in the match?
So first of all, everyone's praising Ancelotti's tactics. He went with a 4-4-2 formation. No one saw it coming, not even Guardiola. It totally messed with City's rhythm. They were expecting the usual 4-3-3, but this change just threw them off balance.
And were there any standout performances?
Courtois was incredible in goal. Some commentators even gave him a 9 rating. Man of the match. His saves were unbelievable, especially that one in the 80th minute.
I bet.
And we can't forget Asensio. He put in another really solid performance at center back.
He seems so comfortable there now.
I know, it's crazy. He was playing as a forward last season. Now he's going up against the best attackers in the world and holding his own.
That's amazing. And Mbappe had a goal and created some really dangerous chances.
Yeah, he's back. And some commentators are saying, watch out for a classic Real Madrid collapse in the second leg. You know how they do. Amazing in the first leg. Then they fall apart in the second.
Oh no, don't even say that. So where do we go from here? A controversial La Liga match, a historic Champions League victory, and so much uncertainty about the future.
Yeah, I mean, what happens next? Will Real Madrid keep pushing for changes to the refereeing system? What about the Nadrera case? How will that play out, and how will it affect the league as a whole?
And what about tactics? Will Ancelotti stick with this 4-4-2 that worked so well?
Lots of questions to answer.
It's exciting.
It is, and that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. We're not just looking back at what happened. We're trying to figure out what it all means for the future of Real Madrid and for La Liga.
It feels like we're just getting started.
Exactly. In part two, we're going to really dig into those tactical details and the potential for change. We'll talk about what you should be looking out for as this all plays out as a Real Madrid fan.
Okay, so we just finished talking about that incredible win against City. Let's take a closer look at Ancelotti's tactics. That 4-4-2 formation was a surprise. What are the sources saying about why it worked so well against City?
Yeah, the analysts are all talked about how that formation disrupted City's game. They usually have such smooth build-up play. Real Madrid was so compact defensively. Really hard for City to get through the middle. And when Real won the ball back, they were so quick on the counterattack, it really caught City off guard.
So it sounds like it was a really smart move by Ancelotti, and the commentators were really impressed with Asensio's performance in defense.
He was fantastic. Winning those aerial duels, making important interceptions, he was really reading the game well. It's amazing how he's gone from a forward to a reliable defender. Some commentators are even saying he could be the long-term answer at center back.
That's amazing. But do you think this 4-4-2 formation is the answer for Real Madrid? Will it work against every opponent?
Well, some commentators are saying it might not be a perfect solution for every game. Against teams that defend deep, Real Madrid might need to control possession more. That's where players like Ceballos and Modric could be really important.
Right, because they're so good at controlling a tempo of the game. And let's not forget about Cruz. Hopefully he'll be back from injury soon.
Yeah, his vision and his passing are so important for breaking down defenses.
So when Cruz is back, who do you think should start alongside him in midfield?
That's a tough one. Ceballos has been playing so well lately, but Camavinga's a bit more solid defensively.
It's a tough decision for Ancelotti.
And then you have the left-back position. Mendy is almost back from injury. But Frank Garcia has been doing a great job in his place.
Yeah, it sounds like Ancelotti has some tough decisions to make.
Finding the right balance is key. He needs to be flexible, but he also needs to keep the team stable.
Too many changes could disrupt the team's chemistry.
Right, and he needs to make sure all the players are motivated, even if they're not starting every game.
But let's talk about something a little more controversial. Those fans who are saying that Real Madrid should leave La Liga, it's a pretty extreme idea, but I can understand why some fans are so frustrated.
Yeah, I think it shows how disillusioned some fans are. They feel like the system is against them. But in reality, leaving La Liga would be super complicated, logistically and financially. And would it really solve the problem? There's no guarantee that a different league would be any better.
That's a good point. And think about the rivalry with Barcelona. El Clasico is one of the biggest sporting events in the world.
I know. It would be a huge loss for everyone if that was gone.
So if leaving La Liga isn't realistic, what can Real Madrid do about these concerns with refereeing?
Well, the sources suggest they need to keep putting pressure on La Liga and the Spanish FA. To reform the system,
Right.
they need to demand more transparency and make sure referees are held accountable for their mistakes.
It sounds like it needs to be a complete overhaul of the system.
Exactly. And Real Madrid needs to get other clubs on board. There are some signs it's starting to happen, like that statement from Alaves. They criticized the refereeing in their last match.
So there's strength in numbers.
Absolutely. And Real Madrid has a lot of influence. They can use that to help other clubs and really push for change.
It's like David versus Goliath. The fans have a lot of power too.
Definitely. The commentators were saying that Real Madrid needs to get their fans involved, make sure they know that these issues aren't going away.
Right, because it's about more than just winning and losing. It's about making sure the game is fair.
Absolutely. There's a psychological side to this too. All of these emotions, the frustration, the excitement, how is that going to affect the players?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. What are the commentators saying about that?
Well, some of them are worried about the impact of that Osasuna match, all of those bad calls. It could have a lasting effect. It can be really demoralizing for a team to feel like they're always fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah, it must be so frustrating for them to feel like they're not getting a fair shake, especially when every point matters.
Yeah, it can really wear them down when you feel like the odds are stacked against you. It's hard to stay focused and motivated.
But they did just beat Manchester City in the Champions League. That must have been a huge boost for the team.
Oh yeah, that win was huge. It showed everyone what Real Madrid can do when they're at their best. It was a classic Real Madrid performance. So much heart and determination.
They really do thrive on proving people wrong. But managing those expectations, all that pressure, must be tough.
Ancelotti's really good at keeping the team calm and focused. But these next few weeks are going to be a real test for him. He can't let them get complacent after the City win. But he also needs to make sure the negativity from the Osasuna match doesn't affect them.
It's a tough balance to strike.
And then you have to think about the individual players. Like Vinicius Junior, he's been targeted so much this season by opposing fans and with some really bad tackles. How's he going to handle all that pressure?
Yeah, he's had a rough season. He's been fouled more than anyone else in La Liga, and it does seem like the refs aren't protecting him enough.
That feeling of being unfairly targeted, it can really get to you.
And then there are all those rumors about Mbappe maybe going to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, that's not what they need right now. It just adds more uncertainty and tension to the team.
So we've got controversy in La Liga, a big win in the Champions League, rumors about a star player leaving, and a manager trying to hold it all together.
It's definitely a dramatic season.
What should our listeners be paying attention to as this all unfolds?
Well, I think the most interesting thing to watch is how the team responds to all of this. Do they come together? Or do they start to fall apart?
That's a good point, and I'm curious to see what Ancelotti does tactically.
Will he stick with the 4-4-2?
Or go back to something more familiar.
And how will he handle the players who are coming back from injury? There are a lot of decisions to make.
And it's not just about what happens on the pitch.
Right. Pay attention to how the media and the fans are reacting. Does this controversy make them more determined? Or does it just create more negativity?
So many layers to this story.
It's more than just football. It's about psychology and leadership.
It's about believing in yourself and never giving up.
Exactly. Even for the best players in the world. The mental side of the game is just as important as the physical side.
Well, we'll be watching closely to see what happens next. And we want to hear from you, our listeners. What are your thoughts on all of this? This deep dive is just the start of the conversation. Thanks for listening.